Hi everyone and welcome to my coverage of Game 2 of the World Chess Championships 2010. After losing the first game, it was up to Anand to prove that he had some fight in him, and he did just that. Playing with white, he opened with d4, to which Topalov answered knight f6, and after c4, e6, knight f3, and d5, the game has transposed into one of the many variations of the Queen's Gambit. Anand continued with g3, taking the game into a Catalan opening, which may well have been a psychological choice, as positional play with long manoeuvring is not Topalov's forte. Indeed, Kramnik had employed the opening successfully against him in their World Championship match in 2006. Play continued with one of the many book lines: d takes c4, bishop g2, now a6, preparing b5, in order to hold on to the pawn here at c4, which Anand now prevented with knight e5. So c5, knight a3, which is an unusual development for the knight, but it's normal for this variation. After c takes d4 comes knight a takes c4. And white has gambited a pawn for a lead in development and active piece play, especially on the queen's side, where it should be possible to gain initiative. The pressure will grow, especially on b7, and in the meantime it's very difficult for black to develop his queenside pieces. So bishop c5, castles, castles, bishop d2, and knight d5, blocking the action of white's light square bishop, which of course it would be very unadvisable to trade off for the knight here on d5. And this move also stops white from playing b4 to chase off the dark squared bishop, and prepares a later f6 and e5 to support the pawn at d4. So rook c1, taking control of the only open file and eyeing the loose bishop on c5. And this is all still well-known theory. So knight d7, and now knight d3, just avoiding the exchange of pieces with the hope of creating initiative with more pieces on the board. And the bishop is attacked here. So bishop a7, now bishop a5, attacking the queen, and here Topalov played queen e7, which I believe is the first new move of the game. More normal is b6. So queen b3 from Anand, with growing pressure on black's queen side, which prompted Topalov to play the logical rook b8 overprotect the b7 pawn. And Anand now thought for a long time, leading many spectators to believe that he was outside of his preparation, and the move he played surprised many people, with queen a3, so offering the exchange of queens, and pretty much forcing it, in fact, because it's the only reasonable move. Anything else, and white can follow up with the powerful knight d6, because he'll have control of this diagonal. So Topalov played queen takes a3, and Anand recaptured with his pawn, voluntarily accepting doubled pawns, so that there's no time lost by moving this knight here on c4. And also there's some dynamic compensation in the form of the semi-open b file. And what's more, it's another psychological shot from Anand, because Topalov is such an aggressive player, and of course he therefore prefers to have queens on the board, and with this continuation Vichy is pretty much forcing him to play more quietly, trying to maintain his extra pawn and grind out a long endgame win or something like that. And as I said, this isn't the type of play that Topalov either likes or excels at. Here he played knight 7 f6, and I came at knight c e5, taking advantage of the weakened dark square complex and giving up the pressure on b6 and d6, but taking d7 under control and opening the c file for the rook. So rook e8, and now rook c2, just preparing to double rooks and increase the pressure down the c file. So b6, bishop d2, controlling the knight on d5, bishop b7, rook fc1, and rook b d8, just making way for the dark squared bishop to reroute to a more active post, and at the same time further supporting d5, which is clearly Topalov's strategical base for the middle game. Here Anand played f4, which surprised many people watching it, because the positive thing about it is that it hinders a later e4 from black, but on the negative side it creates some weaknesses, notably e3, which could become serious if Topalov finds an effective way to exploit it, although he didn't in the game. Here he played bishop b8, now came a4, hoping just to undermine these pawns here and the queen side in general. Now a5, just stopping white's a pawn in its tracks. And now knight c6, a nice square for the knight, so much so that Topalov gave up his bishop for it. Bishop takes c6, now rook takes c6, and a rook penetration to the 6th rank. And black's light squared bishop being traded off loses black not only the bishop pair but also the ability to challenge white's c-file control. So Topalov continued with h5, which is looking to provoke weaknesses on the king side, but perhaps this was lashing out a little, because Anand is playing confidently, not only giving up a pawn but also accepting doubled pawns, allowing Topalov to accumulate the kind of small advantages that usually lead to a winning position. And yet it's Anand who is starting to get the upper hand, and as already mentioned, he has managed to steer the game into a position that Topalov doesn't enjoy at all, with the unexpected queen exchange that he played earlier on, which is very cunning psychological play. So here he continued with rook 1 c4, attacking the d pawn, and here Topalov made what looks like a logical and good move, but in actual fact it's not the best. Knight e3, and it's even possible to say that Anand was aiming to provoke this when he played f4 earlier. Better was either bishop a7 to protect the b pawn, or knight g4 followed up with knight g e3 and the creation of a very powerful knight outpost. Presumably Topalov didn't want to lose the d pawn, so he played knight e3, and this at worst is at this very moment equal for white. So bishop takes e3, and after d takes e3, white is definitely better due to the c-file control and the queenside pressure. And Anand continued with bishop f3, just ensuring that the king isn't vulnerable on the first rank and not rushing to exploit his newfound positional advantage, but first making sure he's okay defensively. It's a very nice play. So g6, just aiming to keep the kingside pawns solid, but this is another mediocre move from Topalov. Better was rook d6, where after rook takes d6, bishop takes d6, and rook c6, the position is equal. So g6 anyway. Now came rook takes b6, equalizing in material now, as well as having a better position, and the scales are certainly starting to tip in white's favour. Topalov played bishop a7, which is yet another mediocre move, and it appears that he's started to drift a bit, which can happen if you lose concentration, lose focus, you don't have a concrete plan to follow, and his pieces are becoming very passive. Better was rook e7, aiming to double on the d-file, but white's still better. So bishop a7, now rook b3, and rook d4 is hoping to exchange a pair of rooks, but this would relieve the pressure, so naturally Vichy didn't go in for that and played instead rook c7, keeping the pressure up, attacking the bishop. So bishop b8, now rook c5, and bishop d6, and not rook takes a4 of course, because of bishop c6 winning the exchange. So bishop d6, and now rook takes a5, and now it's Anand who's a pawn up with great prospects for the rest of the game. His bishop on f3 is an especially powerful piece and very useful because it's supporting the queening square a8 for the two passed white pawns. So rook c8, striving to activate his rooks, but it's difficult to do because white's controlling the b file and white's knight is controlling d4. Sorry, c4. No, not c4 either, c5. And so it's difficult. I mean, the only square that the rook can invade to is c2, and its only target there, after white plays a3, is the e2 pawn, which is protected by the bishop. So there's very little active play for black in this position, and very frustrating to have to play against. Okay, that's the end of part 1.